Wade, thanks for taking some time. Welcome back to the show. Can you take us through, from your side, what happened to get to the point for the announcement on Tuesday that the team would be relocating?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. It obviously predates me and my time here since July 1st of last year. It's been something that's been reviewed very closely here in the last few years. Obviously, the economics of it were probably the driving factor. Looking at just the business of junior hockey, we've seen it in some other markets, throughout the province, and Notre Dame was no exception to it. And it just wasn't making a lot of business sense. Junior hockey is very expensive. And, the evolution of our programming along with the SJHL and just junior hockey in Canada, our team was not strongly connected to the boarding school. I think we had one student athlete this year that was actually a student at our school. The team is older, the league's a little bit older, and when you're tuition driven for revenue and you have one student athlete on your team, the math doesn't work very well. So it was something that our board of directors have been looking at very closely. It's just such a tough market. So we've been approached numerous times. Again, before I was here, there's different markets in Saskatchewan. They're looking to add junior A hockey. This time around, a group from Warman approached us, and it made a lot of sense. And we want to make sure that this makes sense for us business-wise, but also the tradition continues with our junior A programming, and it goes to a good home. And we feel very strongly that Warman is going to be a perfect spot to host our tradition and our history and move it forward. They got a strong leadership group there in a very vibrant community with a great facility. When you look at the province, and if you had to pick a spot to drop a team into, Warman just seems so obvious. So we're excited for what's ahead, and at the same time, a little sad about what's going to be missing here. But some great years, some great memories, and this junior A program served a lot of people.
I heard you talk in another interview that the junior A team, sort of operated at arm's length from the school. Can you explain sort of what that means? Because I think when we think, well, Notre Dame, everybody's lumped in together, and it's exactly the same for every sporting team, no matter what the age group.
Yeah, no, it's a fair question. And from the outside, people might be a little surprised to know that. When the second version of the team, so people know there was a junior team here in the 70s for a brief period, maybe 3 years, but 87, 88, that championship team that won the SJHL, that won the Centennial Cup, and all the great alumni there, majority of those guys were students here. They played at the time midget hockey and then graduated junior hockey. There might have been 20 guys on the team that graduated as Notre Dame Hounds, and maybe 14 of them that were still in school at the time when they were playing for the team. So obviously the connection was very strong. But through the years, the rules have changed a little bit. Some of our recruiting obstacles are new, where players from out of province, even if they're going to our school, they're not eligible to play. European players that are at our school aren't eligible to play. It's just tougher. There's a draft now, so the draft, as good as it is, it can still be a bit of a restriction. So our player pool wasn't what it was, and you see the leagues. It's very competitive. We lose players mid-season. We lost a player a week ago to the BC Hockey League. Like it's really tough to operate a junior hockey team in a town of less than 500 people. And they did a great job of it for a long time, but the economics just didn't make sense.
You mentioned you've been on the job since July 1st. And as your role as the director of hockey development, tell us what happens now going forward for all of the rest of the hockey programs there and what you were trying to build. Because I think, when we first chatted with you, when you took over this role, there's big plans, and maybe reassure people that this happening doesn't slow down what you were doing in the other areas, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And first of all, I want to make sure people know the Notre Dame programming, the Notre Dame school, Alpha Murray College of Notre Dame isn't going anywhere. Okay. Our junior A team is going to Warman, but I get calls, are you moving to Warman? No, just 1/12 of our programming is. A significant portion of it that is a bit of a flagship just because the notoriety that goes with junior hockey. But we're actually adding programming. We're adding 2 teams next year, so we're going to be plus 1 team. And we looked at all our programming. We looked at the markets and where we can do better and maybe have a stronger market share. And our female programming is one for sure. We're adding a 3rd female team. We're going to have a U15 AA team there, and we want to see the growth of that program. We're going to do some other things on the female side as well. We're bringing back our midget AA team that's gone away. So we are adding programming, and that's just on the hockey side. I think the college itself has looked at diversifying our services, especially in sport. We've made a greater commitment to our volleyball program, our basketball program, and our football program as well. So we are still a very strong hockey school, but there's other programming here, and we're already seeing growth of that. Our basketball teams and our volleyball and our football next are showing growth already as well. So diversifying our programming. I mentioned in some other interviews just how many different hockey academies there are now, and there's 34 academies in Western Canada. The Notre Dame most people know and knew about through the early 80s and 90s was one of one in the West. If you're a really good hockey player and you want to go play at a boarding school, there was one place to go. Now there's 124 teams competing in the Sports School Hockey League, and that's one league alone, and that's just on this side of the border. So the landscape has definitely changed, and we need to adapt, and this is part of it. So with loss, there's gain, and we're looking forward to moving ahead and then immediately adding teams to our programming.
Well, and thanks for clarifying that, because even those are some of the questions and some of the texts that we got about what's happening. So thank you for putting that to rest. Hockey and all the other sports are alive and well at Notre Dame. It's just the junior team that's going to be moving on. All right. So before we got started here, you mentioned you were down east over the weekend and that you ended up at the hockey game on Saturday night. The Bell Center was probably the most sought after place to be as far as a hockey fan goes, Canada, US. We're not long from the championship game tonight and the opening faceoff. Tell us the story. How did you end up there on Saturday night, or was this always in the plans to be there?
It never was in the plans. Some people might have been suspicious of my travel itinerary, but I went to the Quebec. I went to the Quebec Pee Wee tournament, actually, and that's just, again, an extension of our future programming. We're going to be a little more aggressive with our U15 programming. There's 90-some teams at the Quebec Pee Wee tournament from all over the world. So I was there for about 4 days enjoying that hockey. What an event. And I'll tell you about the Quebec Pee Wee tournament. I have friends that have won the Stanley Cup that have been to the Quebec Pee Wee tournament, and they ranked the Quebec Pee Wee tournament experience #1 in their hockey career. So that tells you what this event is all about. It's a true celebration of youth hockey. I was enjoying it, and then the weather changed, and there was a lot of snow coming, as you probably saw, all throughout that part of the country. So I decided to get out of Quebec City early Saturday afternoon and start driving towards Montreal. And then talking to my wife, she says, "Are you going to the hockey game?" And I had no plans of it, honestly. And she said, "You need to go to that game." And I'm a guy, he's a former NHL scout that went to maybe too many hockey games in the last few years and maybe enjoying a different schedule. And she said, "You need to go to that game." So I did. I went on a secondary ticket market place and found a reasonable price ticket. And boy, am I glad I went to that hockey game. It was bigger than I thought it was going to be, and I kind of shut off the hype and wasn't really following it as closely as others. And then when I got to Montreal, you could feel it. And going into that rink and then seeing the people who were there when GSP came out and introduced Team Canada and all the other hype and all the star power at the game, like, okay, this is the right game to be at. And then 11 seconds in, I knew I was at the right hockey game.
Okay.
It was a pretty special moment there for a while, and it was a great game. The U.S. was good. They were fast. They probably more physical than Canada. Definitely deserved to win that game, and I'm hoping for a different result tonight.
We've been talking on the show all week. Once the fighting was done and they got down to hockey, it looked like the Americans were doing everything to frustrate the Canadians because they took away everything in the middle. Outside of that McDavid goal, there was just not a lot there. And can they do it 2 games in a row? You saw it live. What did the Americans do to the Canadians on Saturday that the Canadians need to be able to either get out of or have a better plan to defend against?
Yeah, a couple of things. They initiated. They initiated the physical play. You saw McDavid get knocked down 3 or 4 times. The Americans were the aggressors in a lot of cases. Also, I thought they protected the middle of the ice really well. Canada got choked. We could not get inside. We couldn't get secondary chances. The goaltender basically swallowed everything we threw at them. The Americans had a great game plan, and they looked faster. Canada looked a little slower, a little tired, maybe a little bit older. But some of those old guys I wouldn't bet against. And to beat Canada 2 times in a row, we'll see if the U.S. can do that. But it should be a heck of a hockey game.
Now, you said you're going to be hopping on a bus and headed to Edmonton. I'm assuming buses these days, I haven't been on one in a while, they have Wi-Fi and stuff. I'm assuming every phone and iPad on the bus is going to be tuned into that game.
Yeah, there'll be some hopefully good cell service all the way and some Wi-Fi. There is a dinner stop in Saskatoon, and we've set up to watch the first period there. So
nice.
We got that covered, and then hopefully, we have a hockey game here tonight. It's a red and white night for our U18A team, and it's been planned for a long time. It's their last home game, and it's the exact same time as Team USA Canada. So they're setting it up in the lobby of the rink, and our teams that are traveling are trying to find ways to see the game. And you forget as we get older that a lot of these kids weren't alive in 2002 or 2010 when Crosby scored. So this might be the biggest Canada-US game ever in a lot of our student athletes' lifetime. So this is their 72 Summit Series, or 80 if you're an American, or 02 or 2010 if you're Canadian. This is a big moment for our hockey student population here at the school. So hopefully we can all find a way to watch the game.
All right, before we let you go, I'm afraid to give a prediction, but you're a seasoned hockey pro. You've watched more hockey and forgotten it than I will ever see. Prediction for tonight: who wins in final score?
I'm going to say 3-0 Canada. I think it's going to be a tight hockey game, and I think it's going to take a lot to get a good scoring chance. I think it's going to be an incredibly fast-paced game, but I think tonight's the night the stars shine.
All right. And if it is a shutout, who scores that first and game-winning goal for Canada?
Well, I got to support my roots a little bit, and I think Makar coming back into the lineup is going to give Canada a spark. It's that first goal. There's just so many guys in Canada. I just wouldn't want to bet against Crosby or McKinnon or McDavid or Makar. Like those, can you beat those guys 2 times in a row? And I know Makar didn't play last game, but I'll go with Makar. And who knows? This game could go a lot of many ways. Do they boo the Canadian anthem? My strategy was they should bring Bobby Orr out to announce a Canadian team, and because they're not going to boo Bobby Orr, but maybe they will. But there's some Marchand. Every time he touches the puck, what happens there? So there's a lot of storylines here, and I'm excited to watch this game or parts of this game tonight while we travel.